So we have a day off today, which is nice, and we're spending it putting our tubing up. We do something that's a little bit different than what a lot of people do. We take our tubing down every year, and we don't have a ton of tubing. We have about 120 taps on 10 lines, and we take them all down because where we live, our piece of woods is fairly small, and we do a lot of stuff in the woods all year long. We pick mushrooms, we pick leeks, we cut a lot of firewood to heat our house in the woods. There's never a season where we're not working in the woods. In the fall, we harvest venison. So it's like we just don't want the tubing out, and it's worth it to us to go through the work of taking it down and putting it back up. And also, though, there's some work saved. You know, when you leave your tubing in the woods, as most people do, branches are constantly falling, there's windstorms, and it takes a lot of maintenance to keep it up. And the weather takes a toll on it. Deer walk through it. There's a lot of things. So we choose to do this, and it works well for us. And I think it works well for a lot of people. A lot of people don't even think about it. They look at the work that it takes to put it up, and they can't imagine taking it down every year. But for us, man, it's awesome. It takes us about a day to put 10 lines up if we apply ourselves to it. We have numbers on each line, and then I have videos that we made when we put the first year we put the tubing up. We made videos as we took it down, detailed videos where we walked the line and talk about the details of the trees that the line wraps around. We identify the end line tree and so forth. So it works pretty well. This is what our bundle looks like.
So you're reusing it every year?
Yeah, we're reusing it again and again. We might change the taps out every other year, but yeah, we continue reusing it. So I say we just walk this line that I have routed here. This is the end of it. We'll just walk this line up to where the end line tree is. We'll connect the end line, and then we'll tension it back. The last thing we do then, after we have it tensioned, is we go and adjust the height of the line at each tree, just to get it to flow downhill as best as possible. We are using gravity. We have a ton of topography where we live. We're in the Kettle Moraine. Everything is ridges and pits and mounds, so it's helpful. The tank is at like the bottom of our deepest valley, but the lines cross a lot of minor valleys on their way to the end line, and so there's a lot of times you can walk well under the line, and other places you can step over it, and that's just the nature of where we live here.
So when you say end line, you're talking about the last tree, like the tree furthest away from the tank, right?
That's right. The end line tree is where that tube ends. That's where it terminates, and everything runs downhill from there. We have about 10 to 12. A couple might have more than 12 trees on them. We're using 5/16 tubing. We easily achieve a natural vacuum in the woods here, and it makes a big difference. You can clearly see the sap pulling. The process is to route the line from that tank up around the trees. I route it. I have a video that I watch on how I route it around the trees up to the end line. So I route it, then I pull slack so that I can tie the line around the end line, and then I tension it back. So right now it's been routed. Now we're going to go tie the end line, and then we'll start tensioning it back.
Cool. All right, we're at the end line.
Yep. So the tubing system we're using, we put in originally in 2019. So it's on its 4th season now. And I guess in 2020 we didn't even use it. We tapped so few trees we didn't get our tubing system involved. But at the time, the system of end lines was a deadheaded T. This is an end line T. So what that means is only this port and this port of the T are live for sap. This is just a dead end,
It's just a barb.
It's just a barb that's this. So this piece of tubing that wraps around the tree has nothing to do with sap transfer. It's just for tying it around the tree. And then there's a loop. You see this loop goes on. These are real easy to lose. That's my gripe with this old system here. So you see here, this tubing was cut last year. That's how I disconnected it to take the tubing down. So I'm going to cut that off. This is a line viper. That I swear by this tool.
And you're cutting it because the end of the line is frayed.
So I have to take that part off where I slid it with a knife last year to get it apart. So I'm going to cut that off, put that in my pocket, just throw it away later.
Oh, nice. That was easy.
Yep.
And then you don't have to have a tubing cutter.
Yeah, that's the whole point. For what I'm doing today, I don't want to carry a tubing cutter around, you know, so yeah, it is ideal for that. So this is a perfect one-handed tool for what I'm doing today. And as you can see, I should have given myself a little bit more line on this back then. I should have given myself a lot more lead on that, because now every year I'm losing an inch and it's getting tighter and tighter while the tree grows. And this is a red maple, so this is a fast growing mofo to begin with, you know. So in the 4 years since we started tapping, this tree with a good crown on it, it grew a lot. So it's getting tough to put this on. And actually, when it comes time, we're down in a pit right here. And we're down in a little valley on this ridge line. So this one actually has to go up pretty high, and you can see some old rotten logs that I have here. Yeah, that's okay, but I'm gonna actually stand up there. I'm gonna shimmy this up because this end of the tree has to be a little bit higher to begin with. So I'm going to get it up just about as high as I can because I know I'm going to need that.
All right, what's next?
Now the next thing is, if my camera lady could help me better, we would leapfrog this. We would tension it back. But I'll start doing it by myself and see how far I get tensioning it by myself, and that'll at least give you some idea what we're doing.
Okay,
so
let's go. I can hold it here.
All right, so maybe you can help me a little bit as we go. I pull tight. So this brings up another point. A more common struggle. See, when we take our lines down every year, it's hard to get them back tight to where they need to be. It's the opposite problem that people have when they leave their system in all year. The lines tend to get loose, you know, because they're in the sun, they're in the warmth. The sag becomes permanent because the line has memory. Where what we do, we take it down, we put it in the coil, and we store it wherever, and it tends to shrink up. So we normally, it takes a little bit of work to get it stretched back where it belongs. So that's what we're doing now. Oh, so I don't even see the stump from this one. This tree came down over the summer.
Oh,
so
there's a tap.
We will have to come back and do a repair on this later. We'll come in here with one of our two-handed tools and put a union in here. We'll get rid of this T.
Where are you? Okay.
So yeah, that's another. I'm glad we came across that, because that's another thing that that you don't really think about. You know, when you're doing a video like this, you don't think of all the things to talk about. But yeah, in 4 years you lose some trees. So that one came down over the summer. So now we're going to end up with more line than we need. So when we cut that T out later, we will also remove a couple feet of line too, because that tree consumed some some tension in this line.
Right. So we have one less tree to wrap around.
Right. So now we hook on our wire. This is always a little bit of a challenge. We hook it on there. When we tap, that line goes into our tank, into our tote. So the last step we do now is we walk back along that line and we adjust the height. We didn't pay attention to the height of the line very much at all, but we want to make sure we have a downhill pitch on the whole thing. So now the next thing we're going to do is go back and adjust the height on that line.
How many gallons of sap does that tote hold?
That holds 275 gallons.
Okay.
And
how long does it typically take to fill?
Oh, I've seen it fill in a day. You know, I've seen it where I empty it in the morning before work, and by the time we get home that night from work, it's full. You know, we're down to, you know, less than an hour before it starts overflowing. I've seen it fill that quickly. So, and that's on an exceptional day. Normally that's not the case. Normally I get a couple days of runs before I have to worry about the tank filling.
Cool.
But this is a good system. I encourage this to anybody who wants to put the work forward ahead of the season. What I mean by that is it takes time and effort to put this system up every year, but during the season it frees you up. A maple producer is darn busy during the maple season, so it allows you to get some of the work done ahead of time.
Less collecting.
Less collecting later is the point. Yeah, less hand collecting, less hand labor, less walking through the mud and so forth.
All right. Well, this is what it boils down to.
That's what it boils down to.